And welcome to the Marcus and Mike Show, guys. I am Mike. My man over here to the left is Marcus. Let's just go ahead and start off right off the bat here. Let's give a big shout out to Steven Strasburg. Last night was the first pitcher since 2007 to get 3+ hits and 5+ RBIs in a game since 2007. So shout out to him. You know,
Wow,
he's a complete package now, I guess you
he
can
is.
say. Uh, I did a podcast earlier, and I questioned the validity of this stat, like because when you are in little league in high school, your best athlete is the pitcher. Your best hitter is normally the pitcher. What happens from high school and college to major leagues that they just can't hit? Like, what do you think that is?
I mean, listen, because the players are better, and when you really have to hone in on your craft when you get to the major league level. Like if I'm a great pitcher in college and I used to be able to hit okay, man, the money to put food on the table, the money I need to make is not going to be with hitting.
Right.
I've got to hone in on my craft on pitching and do that to the best of my ability. The hell with hitting.
True.
Hitting will be an afterthought once I become a professional. But that is amazing what Strasburg did.
Hmm.
That's to be a pitcher, yeah, and they have 3 hits and all that. Whatever I didn't even know that stat. I didn't even see that since 2007. That's pretty damn impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did not see who that pitcher was in 2007. I probably should have looked that up, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. But some more big news. Me as a Kansas City Chiefs fan, and like us picking games for the Kansas City Chiefs here in the next few weeks. Tyreek Hill is not getting any game suspension for his role in that child custody case, or that child case that he had earlier this season. You were kind of expecting 4 games. I was kind of like expecting the 4 games as well. Are you surprised by this news?
A little bit, but not really, because there's not enough evidence. There's
Right.
not enough. There's not enough there. No charges. No. I am surprised though, a little bit that Roger Goodell didn't smack him around. I think
Hmm.
he's Roger Goodell must be getting a little lenient.
Right.
He let Ezekiel Elliott go. I mean, I don't know. Somebody's getting to him, talking to him, saying, "Hey, we've been too hard on the players now. Now it's kind of a little bit of a pushback." Because I think if this was like 2 years ago, if
Hmm.
this was right after Ray Rice, I think Zeke would have got another game, just for not pushing down the security guard, kind of like just, not really pushing him down, but just
Yeah.
putting his body in. I think Zeke would have got a game, and I think that Tyreek Hill would have got like 4 games, at least a game. I thought maybe they would still slap him with a game saying contract detrimental to the league.
Right. Right.
He did kind of threaten his children's mother on the phone a little bit. I mean, who knows what she says to him behind closed doors. But you know what? There just wasn't enough evidence. And then, it's a good thing on the kudos to the Chiefs front office, because right when this happened, everybody and a lot of people I respect on TV and a lot of former players were saying, "Oh, release him!" Like they've never done it. Release him, get rid of him.
Right.
And if the Chiefs had done that, right, somebody would be picking him up today,
Cleveland Browns again.
and they would have an all pro on their hands.
Hmm.
Let's just say it's the Chargers, or let's just say it's somebody like that, and then everybody will be scrambling around to pick up Tyreek Hill in fantasy football, which they're going to do anyway.
Yep.
And then that team would have a top 10 fantasy football player on their hands, and it wouldn't be in a Chargers uniform. So I'm the kudos to the Kansas City front office for not panicking and not just getting rid of him, because there's going to be no suspension. There's no evidence of stuff. So
Let me touch on
that's
that
good
Kansas
news.
City Chiefs front office real quick here. I think they learned from the Kareem Hunt
Yeah, they did.
situation. They kind of jumped the gun a little too early. He got an 8-game suspension, but you no longer have your running game solidified with a all-pro athlete back there. Now you have to have a 3-headed monster back there with 5 and 6 round picks. So the Chiefs front office learned from the Kareem Hunt situation
Yes,
by not letting Tyreek Hill go.
good
And
point.
I do have to agree with you that Roger is getting a little lenient, maybe,
Yeah.
or just maybe he is letting the system play out because like a couple years ago, it's just I don't remember the story vividly. Like I don't have a memory like yours over there, but like a player was accused of something, and he ultimately ended up getting like 4 games suspension, and like everything was just thrown out, like nothing ever happened.
Right.
Like the girl came out and said she lied about something. I want to say it was a quarterback for the Buccaneers, if I'm not mistaken, Jameis Winston,
Winston.
maybe.
It could have been that, or
Yeah, but
uh,
but he got a 4 game suspension for not doing
well,
anything for a straight
yeah.
lie.
Well, I can't remember Reuben Foster. He did
Oh
he get
yeah,
any
yeah,
games?
yeah. There you go.
But yeah, because it ended up being not. She ended up fabricating everything, and
Right.
so now he's done for the year. I think he had a terrible knee injury a couple of months ago in OTAs or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the girlfriend came out and said she lied about things or something like that. So
Yeah.
his suspension wasn't warranted or whatever. That's yeah. The bad news is the NFL is its own entity. It's its own thing.
You're
Like
right.
they don't have to follow. They don't have to adhere to the justice system. Even if you got arrested
Mm-hmm.
and you're going through the process and all that, the NFL could say, you know what, you're putting our name through the mud. We're giving you 2 games.
Yeah,
You know, they can do that. So,
which it makes sense. You know, hey, keep your nose clean, keep our
right,
brand up at the top. But
right.
but when somebody just flat out lies, you
Yeah,
know,
that's bad.
yeah, I mean that looks bad on you too because you acted too swiftly. Like
Right.
the the NFL is kind of in a no-win situation because it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. But you know,
Yeah.
maybe he's starting to learn. Maybe he's starting to be more lenient because of the Ruben Foster thing. You know, so it is what it is. But also
Yeah.
the organizations need to take a step back as well because Ruben Foster was cut from the 49ers the minute I think they were in a hotel
Yeah.
for Monday Night Football or Sunday Night
Yeah.
Football, and like he got arrested before the game, and he got released like right after the game or right before the game or something like just like that.
Yeah,
So
you know what? I think teams are going to learn now, and the NFL is going to start learning that people are lying.
yeah,
Whether it's the man or the man or the
yeah, it's
woman,
all
whatever,
about the
people are
money.
lying. Yeah, and I would not do anything to a player. I'd bring him in and ask him what happened,
Hmm.
and I would not do any suspension until I find out if it's 100% true that this person is not lying. That's just people are making up stuff, man, to get money and whatever. So no, I wouldn't suspend any player until I know what's happening.
So basically, let the judicial system take its course, figure out
Yeah.
what's true and what's
Or
fabricated, and then react.
yeah, or then the NFL has its own kind of detectives or whatever.
Usually better than the police officers
Yes,
themselves.
I'd go
Yeah,
ahead and rely on them to figure out what's true and what's not true.
and don't rely on TMZ
Right.
Sports. Those guys are player haters.
Yeah, no, yeah, no doubt.
Speaking of player haters, guys, we're going to jump right into the Miami Dolphins 2019 football season schedule breakdown. We already have a couple of other games picked because they're division foes here, so we're going to stick in that same division. And Miami did finish the season 6-10 this last year. They picked up Fitzpatrick in the offseason and traded for Drew Rosen as well, the Arizona
Yeah,
Cardinals
yeah,
quarterback
Josh Rosen.
or Josh Rosen.
Yeah,
Drew Rosen is a agent for it was Terrell Owens. I don't know if you
yeah.
watched
Now,
it.
Drew Rosenhaus has been one of
Yeah.
those crazy agents for many years. Yeah.
So let me start. Before we jump into the games here, do you think Fitzpatrick starts for the Miami Dolphins or does Rosen start for the Dolphins this year?
Great question. That is a tough one because Josh Rosen, I think, can play. I think
Yes,
he makes all the throws. I think it was a good pickup for the Dolphins.
great pickup.
Yeah. So, I listen. If I've identified um, Josh Rosen as my guy and in training camp, and that's my going to be my quarterback of the future. I'm not waiting on that. I mean, he's already been through remember I told you the other day I wouldn't start any rookies.
Yeah,
So if Rosen was a rookie this year, just coming right out of UCLA, Fitzpatrick would be my quarterback. But Rosen's already been through it, so no, Rosen would be my quarterback. The beginning of training camp, and Ryan Fitzpatrick would be my backup, unless something crazy happens in camp where just Rosen's not picking it up and Fitzpatrick is doing great. But if all things are being equal, and if Rosen is who I think he is, I'd start Josh Rosen
I
week
agree with you
one.
there 100% because Fitzpatrick is great for a 4 game stretch. He can win you three out of those 4 games, but he can never complete a full season. Like every time he
Yeah.
completes a full season, he is a 300 winning team or a 400
Yeah,
winning team. He never leads his team to the playoffs or the Super Bowl or anything like that. So I think Rosen is going to start. So
yeah.
week one, Miami is at home versus Baltimore Ravens. I have them losing that game to the Ravens. I think the Ravens are going to be flying high off their playoff berth from last year, and they're going to try to keep the train rolling a little bit. Who do you
Okay.
got?
I got them. I got Miami winning week one. They got this. Winning week one never really determines your season or anything like that. Like I told you yesterday, people that win week one, like as soon as Miami Dolphins win this week, they'll think, "Oh, we're going to be better than advertised. We're going
Right.
to be good." No, you're not. And the people that lose week one think that they're gonna, they start looking at draft picks, and which isn't the case either. You can lose week one and still be, you know, go 12-4 if you want to,
Right.
or 11-5. But no, I have Miami Dolphins winning week one against Baltimore. They got all offseason to prepare for this game, and I think Miami at home will get them. The Heat. The
Yep.
one thing that Miami has going for them is that'll be a hot
Yep.
whatever that is, September 8th at noon. So
Yeah.
1 o'clock, whatever. Yeah.
Hottest
So
time of
I
the
think
day.
Miami
Yep.
gets them. I think Miami will get them.
Yeah, just to add to your point about the week one's games here, week one doesn't really matter, but the first 3 weeks matter. There has never been a team
Oh yeah.
to start 0-3 to make the playoffs. So just keep that in mind. So
Yeah, no,
week.
I actually have a little theory on that, Michael. Like people love to say, "Oh, December games mean more,"
Mm-hmm.
and because I mean it's a playoff stretch, and okay, that there might be some December games that mean, but you know what's crazy? They don't give you 1.5 victories for winning December 18th.
Right.
The week one that still counts. You can actually miss the playoffs week one. As crazy as that sounds, I'm going to give you a tiny story here. My son and I go. It's 2009. We go to the Texans at Jets. Right, teams look like they're pretty equal that year, and the Texans lose their home opener to the Jets. And we're driving home thinking, man, I hope we didn't miss the playoffs because we lose tiebreakers to the Jets. Well, guess what happened 16 weeks later, Michael? The Jets finished 9-7, and the Texans finished 9-7. Guess who made the wild card?
Jets.
The Jets. They finished. So if the Texans would have won week one,
Yep.
they'd be in the playoffs. So yeah. So there you go. You can lose the playoffs week one if you end up the tie-breaking situations.
Yeah.
If this won't happen, but if Miami and Baltimore are in a tie-breaking situation in 9-7, and Miami and whoever wins, this could be a determining game. But that won't happen because I don't think Miami's going to be there. I don't think Baltimore's going to be there either. But
No.
anyways, yeah. So just give you a little tidbit there. Week one counts just as much as week 16.
Every week is important.
Every week's important, yes, sir.
Week two, they travel to. They take on New England at home. We both have them losing that game.
Yes.
Week three, they travel to Dallas, Texas. Who do you got?
Oh my God. Yeah, no, that's a. I think you could be looking at two blowout situations here. Playing New England and Dallas. So no, they'll lose. They'll drop this one as well.
Yeah,
Miami. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I have them losing as well. The Cowboys are not going to lose at home this year, even though historically they are better on the road than they are at home for some crazy reason. But this year, I think that it's Super Bowl or bust, and Cowboys aren't going to lose these easy games.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, and in Miami, we've talked about this before. Listen, Miami's in a rebuilding process with Rosen. I mean, they're not going to have a good year this year. I mean, that a lot of stuff has happened to them. So they went 6-10 last year, but they had remember that miracle win where Drake beat Gronkowski around the corner on the 10-yard line.
Yeah,
it really should have been 5-11, but I mean, but yeah, they're gonna take a step back this year. Especially with the new quarterback.
Yeah, and they also were in the weakest division ever last year, playing the Jets and Bills twice. So that helps.
Yeah.
That's almost guaranteed 4 wins every year.
Right.
Week 4, they play the Los Angeles Chargers. I have them losing that game too, starting the season 0-4. Who do you got?
Yeah, I got the Chargers as well. I mean, the Chargers are, on paper, the Chargers could be as good as football team as any team in the NFL. So
we've seen it.
No.
We've seen it this past year. They were quietly winning 12 games, battling for that first that first overall seed.
Yeah. So the Chargers will get this one. So I guess I have them at 1-3 now. Yeah.
Yeah, you have them at 1-3 going into a week 5 bye. much needed on my side of the of the
Yeah.
coin here. Going into Week 6 at home versus Washington, I had them beating Washington. I don't think Washington's going to be very good either, but it's kind of the lesser of the two evils. I got to go with the home team.
Yeah, I'll take. It's at home, right?
Yes.
Miami's at home.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take Miami to beat the Redskins. The Redskins are the Redskins are going to be in a rebuilding process as well. But yeah, but I'm going to go ahead and take the Miami Dolphins. This is two probably even teams.
Yeah. Week 7 they travel to Buffalo. We both have them losing that game, and then traveling to Week 8 to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. This is going to be a very ugly loss. It's going to be over in the second quarter. I think I'm talking like 59-3 type of score. It's going to be ugly. Who do you got?
They have a decent offensive line, but that being said, these games right here, like against New England, Chargers, Steelers, I wonder if Rosen's going to finish these games. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm almost scared for him now. Yeah. So I, no, I don't know. I mean, I got the Steelers winning. I mean, you might see Fitzpatrick could be starting against the Steelers, and Fitzmagic last year had a horrible game against the Steelers. Actually, he bounced back, but Tampa Bay still got killed
Yeah.
by Pittsburgh. That was like a Sunday night football game. But yeah, no, that Fitzmagic might be playing already. They might have the Chargers or the Cowboys or even the Steelers probably gonna knock out Rosen.
Yeah.
So so you think Rosen's gonna play all 16 games? See, I don't think so. I think they'll both play this year.
I think if my schedule goes as planned and they start the season 0-4 going into the bye week, the second string quarterback will start after the bye week, whether that's Fitzpatrick or Rosen. Either way, I think the second string quarterback will be starting by week 6. Um,
Yeah.
so you have them losing to Steelers going into week 9, playing the New York Jets. I have them beating the Jets.
Yeah, did I have them yet the other day beating the Jets as well?
We haven't picked the Jets games yet, so
Oh,
no.
we haven't beat them.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're at home, right?
Yes. Right.
Yeah, this will be their second win. So yeah.
You have them as third win now.
Oh, third win. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, I have them third win. So I have them like a what 3 and
Yeah, 3-1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3-5 right now.
yeah. Actually, that's not bad. Not bad.
That's not bad, but
But
then
what do you have them 2-6?
I have them. Yes, it'll be 2-6 going into Week 10 versus the Indianapolis Colts. Another
Okay.
shellacking. I think the Colts are going to be good, especially at home. I like their running game. Andrew Luck is going to make that step into the elite level quarterbacks, be a top 3 quarterback this season. Who do you got?
Oh, it's at Indianapolis.
Indy,
Indianapolis will
yeah.
beat them. Yeah, Indianapolis. Andrew Luck's a pretty good player, pretty good quarterback. I mean, he has his fair share of interceptions. The only knock on Andrew Luck's career is injuries, and he will throw some interceptions, ill-advised throws. But
Hmm.
other than that, he's a top 5 quarterback. I mean, I'd rather have Deshaun Watson in that division. I think Deshaun Watson's even a better special talent than Andrew Luck. But Andrew Luck and Deshaun Watson, you literally could flip a coin. I used to go back and forth with some guys, even on guy, you gotta love social media, right? They used to tell me how much better Cam Newton was than Andrew Luck, and I'm like, dude, are you crazy?
Get out of here.
Andrew Luck plays the quarterback position the way it's supposed to be played,
Right.
and Cam Newton doesn't. So yeah, and Cam Newton has accuracy issues. No, the Colts will win this game right here, Miami. They'll beat Miami.
Yeah, Week 11 they are at Buffalo at home. We actually both have them winning this
Yeah.
game as well. Week 12 they travel to Cleveland, Ohio to take on the Browns. Who do you got in this one?
Myles Garrett might knock out one of them, so this is going to be trouble. I don't even know who the third string is. They might need their third stringer this year.
Right.
So let's hope they have a nice third string quarterback there to finish out this season. I have the Cleveland Browns beating them pretty good. We'll pick Cleveland later, but I'm high on Cleveland. You're kind of iffy, right?
Yeah.
So Cleveland Browns will win this game.
There's a lot of people picking Cleveland Browns to win their division, to represent the AFC and the championship game, going like 10-6, 11-5. So they have to have this easy win. I do have Cleveland winning this game, but I think it's going to be a little bit closer than what people want it to be. I think Cleveland will be looking ahead because they do have a big division game that next week versus Pittsburgh Steelers at home. Uh, so moving on to Week 13, Philadelphia Eagles, the highest rated team in Madden, but they're at home and Miami. I have Eagles winning this game. I think Eagles are going to be pretty good, challenging the Cowboys for that division. But who do you got?
Yeah. This is one of those games that I'll be watching and praying that somehow Miami pulls out some kind of miracle upset for my Cowboys, but it probably won't happen. The heat factor's gone away. I think in Miami, what are we in December now, or what is
It
this?
should be right around Thanksgiving time.
Oh yeah, okay, I see it. Oh, December 1st.
Yeah, December 1st game. Yep.
Okay, Miami December 1st is not going to be
It'd be nice weather.
super hot. It'll be a little bit nicer. So now Philadelphia shouldn't have too much trouble here. I'll take the Eagles.
Week 14 at the New York Jets. Who do you got?
The Jets will beat them. Yeah, the Jets I think are going to be improved this year as well. Still not good, but they'll be improved.
Yeah, I had the Jets winning this game as well. This is a part of the stretch of the season where they started like 0-5, and I feel they're going to finish 0-5 as well. Next game back on the road versus the New York Football Giants, Week 15. I obviously have them losing this game. This is going to be one of those pickup games that the Giants kind of get just to pad the stats like a little bit. But at this point in time, I think Miami is playing all the backup starters, getting them reps and preparing for the next season. Like at this point,
I think the Giants are preparing for next season as well at this point.
Right.
But I still have the Giants winning because it's a home game. So I think both teams coming into this game will have no more than 5 wins. How about that?
There you go. Yeah, right now you have Miami sitting at 4 wins going into Week 16 at home versus the Cincinnati Bengals. I have the Bengals winning this game. I think the talent overtakes them in this game. AJ Green's going to have a big game if he's still on the team at this point. Pick him up for fantasy football Week 16. Who do you got?
I'll take the Dolphins in this game. This is their last win of the year. They haven't won that the way I have it in about a month now. So
right.
I think they'll go ahead and pick up this game. They'll win this game. They'll beat the Bengals. I don't see the Bengals doing well this year. They're average football team.
Yeah, the Bengals will be battling for a top 10 spot, I do believe. Week 17, they do play the Patriots. We already have them both losing to the Patriots. So go ahead.
Brian Hoyer will be starting this game. Tom Brady will probably be getting the day off, maybe. But you know what? Actually, let me take that back because I have New England barely. They'll actually need this victory to go 9-7. So no, you won't see Brian Hoyer unless Tom Brady has gotten hurt. So no, New England will probably need this game. And and what man, if you're a New England fan, what a great game to have. Miami coming to your place last week of the regular season, and you need the victory. We all the Cowboys and the Texans. I wish Miami was coming to Dallas or Houston on the final week so we can get an easy victory to get to the playoffs.
Yeah. So I do agree with you. I think Hoyer is going to be playing this game because I had the Patriots going 11-5, but they'll be battling for a second place seed. So they're looking for that that home game.
Right.
So they're gonna win. But Tom Brady's going to come out firing on all cylinders in that first half, and then Brian Hoyer's going to come in the second half.
Right, that's true. But if they already have, if New England has already won the division, and let's just say they have the 3rd seed locked up or whatever, then Brian Hoyer will play that game. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have them going 5-11. I have them going 3-13.
You go.
It turns out in the 2019 season, Josh Rosen is a MVP caliber type quarterback, and they go 13-3.
No. They just listen. Their problem is they don't have the talent across the board.
Yeah.
To do that, I mean,
I couldn't name a receiver that they have. Honestly, I don't know who they got.
Yeah, they got that kid out of Central Florida, their first round pick a few years ago, DeAndre Parker or whatever. Listen, they just don't have the talent. Their Christian Wilkins was their first round pick this year, and they're expecting him to be Warren Sappish type, and they just don't have the talent. Kiko Alonso if you put a gun to my head, Kiko Alonso might be their best defensive player. Xavier Howard is a good player, good defensive back, but Kiko Alonso is a good football player. They just don't have the talent to compete. See, in the NFL, I mean, it's an 8-8 league, and you can go from last to first in a
Right.
year. That just won't happen with the Miami Dolphins. New quarterback, they need to accumulate more talent. Um, and it's a miracle I have them going 5-11. So yeah, just Devontae Parker is their first round. They'll rely on him, and Kenny Stills. Kenny Stills a good receiver as well, but they just don't have the talent across the board to compete at a high level and compete for the playoffs this year. And I say that lightly because they're about in the NFL. You can go from worst to first. There is no gimmies in the NFL.
Right.
Listen, even when you go down to Miami, we have them going 5-11. You 3-13. This isn't college, Michael. Like you're not playing like this isn't Penn State playing Rutgers, and
Right.
you don't have to bring your A game. If you don't bring your A game, there's NFL teams that don't think like this, but if you're New England or let's just say you're Pittsburgh and you're going to Miami and you think, oh man, I don't have to bring my A game. No,
You get beat. Yep.
you get beat. These are professional football players. They pick in the same draft as you do. Now, what I'm saying is if Pittsburgh brings their A game and Miami brings their A game, Pittsburgh's going to whoop their ass still.
Yeah.
But
they could even bring
Miami,
their A- game and still
Yeah.
beat them. It won't be an ass kicking, but they'll still win that game.
That's what to me makes the NFL the best sport that we have going.
Any given Sunday,
because the parity is real.
Yeah,
it is real. In college football, I love college football, but the parity's not there. There's only a handful of teams that can win a championship or even compete for it. So, but in the NFL, you might, and I haven't even looked at it. There might be 16 teams that could win a Super Bowl, maybe even more. Miami is not one of those this year. Neither is the Jets. Are we going to do that Monday?
Yep.
Okay, Monday. But probably not Buffalo. But I mean, every division has a team or a couple of teams that can win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and just to add to your point there, just my paintball team used to have a saying, do not let us in on Sundays because that is when we play our best. Because basically how paintball works is on Saturdays you have your regular season. Sunday is the playoffs. You are battling for that championship.
Right.
So do not let us into the playoffs. So any one of these teams, let's say Miami sneaks into the playoffs with an 8-8 record. They can be a 6 seed, but do not let them in because a confident team is a dangerous team.
Yes.
So confidence is a killer in any sport.
Right.
Especially football.
Listen,
look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. They were the 6 seed, came and won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, and then also just to your point, last game of the year, it's New England and Miami.
Yeah.
And New England needs that to either make the playoffs or New England needs that to win the division or maintain that 2nd seed. New England can't come in there thinking, it's Miami.
Right.
Because Miami would love nothing better than to mess up New England's season like they did last year with that miracle finish with Drake number 32 going around Gronkowski, who he's not a defender. You remember that play?
It was so ugly. It was so ugly.
Yeah. Hey, I wonder if any defensive players walked on the field and told Gronkowski, "Hey, man, stick to offense, man. I got this."
That's probably why he retired, huh?
Yeah, no, that was fun. He did. Very seldom does Gronkowski look out of place, but he looked out of place in that one.
Yeah, it was. He was definitely naked out there. But
right,
yeah, so I want to add one more point. The worst and best thing that's happening for Miami these past couple years is they have been in such a weak division. With that being said, they've been getting a lot of cupcake wins. Versus the Jets and the Bills, so that is not giving them a very high pick. Like let's say they were in the division with the Houston Texans, with the Indianapolis Colts, and the Jacksonville Jaguars.
That's the toughest division in football.
Yeah, they would be a 1 or 2 win team with the schedule.
Yes.
If you took off the Patriots, the Jets, and the Bills, and you inserted the Colts, Houston Texans, and Jacksonville, they would be a 1-4 or a 1-15 team, or maybe even a 2-14 team. So this division is kind of a curse because they can be 2-14 and get in the first overall pick, but now they're 5-11 or 3-13, and they're getting a 10th or 11th round pick or a spot pick. Right,
you're 100% correct. I mean, and I think that the AFC South is it could be the best division in football.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have the Tennessee Titans as possibly the worst team in that division, and they can beat you on any given Sunday.
Yeah.
The Titans, they might be the worst team in that division because Nick Foles is at Jacksonville now.
Yeah.
For Miami Dolphins, it's just too much turnover. The first year head coach, first year quarterback, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And for them to be 5-11 is shocking. But like you mentioned, if they were in a tougher division, they'd be 2-14 or well, yeah.
And then they could really go from worst to first. I like I should say. But before we go, we were talking pre-show about possibly the greatest running back of all time, Barry Sanders.
Oh my goodness!
What are your thoughts on Barry Sanders, or who is the greatest running back of all time in your eyes? I'm just going to let you have the floor and let you go, man.
I think the greatest running back of all time is Walter Payton. Sweetness. There's not anything that man couldn't do. He's the best of all time. A matter of fact, I put him as, I've gotten arguments too about this. I think Walter Payton could be the greatest football player of all time, but I don't know how you quantify that. I mean, there's so many. Football is not like basketball to where you can say, "Oh, Michael Jordan's the greatest." Football has too many moving parts.
Yes.
People will say Jerry Rice is the greatest player of all time, but then how can you give the greatest football player of all time to a position where they need everything to go right and you get the ball maybe 5-6 times a game on average? Yep. You know what I mean? Out of 50 plays, Jerry Rice gets the ball 6 times. So how can he be the greatest football player of all time? His stats tell you he is. But I put Walter Payton right there. Walter Payton took the most punishment of any football player in NFL history. Had the most touches. Emmitt Smith may have had more touches than Walter Payton, rushing and receiving. But as far as Barry Sanders, there's always been a myth about Barry Sanders, how he didn't have a great offensive line, he had terrible teams, and all that. All that is not true. They had good teams there at Detroit. He had good offensive line, led by Lomas Brown, Kevin Glover, and Mike Compton. And when I bring this to people, they don't even know who Mike Compton is. And I tell them that Mike Compton never made a Pro Bowl, but he was a solid starter for the Detroit Lions at center, guard, and tackle. And then all Mike Compton did, you ready for this one?
Lay it on me.
He has 2 Super Bowl rings with the New England Patriots starting at guard. He won. He helped. He blocked for Tom Brady and them boys for their first 2 Super Bowls. So he was good enough to start for Bill Belichick at guard for his final years of his. He was young. He had most of his career with the Lions, blocking for Barry Sanders. Then he went on and moved and started for the New England Patriots, and he's got 2 Super Bowl rings. Mike Compton was a hell of a player. Kevin Glover is a perennial Pro Bowler who blocked for Barry Sanders. And Lomas Brown, I think he's getting the Hall of Fame, or he's a consideration for the Hall of Fame. And he also blocked for a guy named Barry Sanders. Mm-hmm. So, it's not as good as the Cowboys' offensive line. People love when I say this. They go, "Oh, they weren't better than the Cowboys." I'm not saying that they're better than the Cowboys. But to say that they're terrible and he didn't have an offensive line, you are intellectually dishonest, or you don't know what you're talking about, or you don't know anything about football, or you're under 40 and didn't watch, or I don't know what. But he had a good offensive line. Listen, Wayne Fontes never gave the ball to Barry Sanders on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 because they were afraid that he'd dance around and wouldn't hit the hole. And so they were scared. They took his ass out of the game.
Right.
I just don't think they were justified in doing so. He put his team with dancing around a lot of 2nd and 13 plays, and that's a killer. And then he padded his stats when Detroit was down, and they started handing the ball to Barry Sanders when there was like 5-6 in the box, and they had a really good passing game too, led by Herman Moore and Jermaine Crowell and Johnny Moore.
Herman Moore.
Brett Perriman. They led the. I know in 1995 they led the NFL in receiving yards. So to sit there and say he didn't have any good teams, they made the playoffs 5 times. So they were kind of like, you know what they were like? They were kind of like the Bengals of the last 10 years.
Yep.
Can you say the Bengals were terrible? No. But can you say the Bengals were a good team? They didn't achieve as much. Yeah, they were a good team. They made the playoffs like 7 out of 8 years. You don't make the playoffs 7 out of 8 years without being a good team.
Right.
So, and really, the Bengals should have won a playoff game, except Vontaze Burfict decided to be a knucklehead and take out Antonio Brown, and then it gave the Pittsburgh Steelers a game-winning field goal. But So no, Detroit had some good teams. They just weren't great teams. But Michael, if you listen to people, Detroit had Barry Sanders was the only one there.
Right.
They were terrible. They were 2-14. If you hear some people talk about Barry Sanders, you'd expect to look up in the record books and see the Lions for 10 years, 3-13, 2-14.
Mm-hmm.
They were Michael, they beat the Cowboys, Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, and Emmitt Smith in the playoffs. They were in the NFC Championship game, and they were in the game with the Redskins. So how is that terrible?
I don't know.
You want
to
talk
fans,
about defense?
Bitter fans.
Yeah. Listen, I can keep going on this. I know all this stuff.
Right.
Chris Spielman is a borderline Hall of Famer. He might be in the Hall of Fame. I got to look that up.
I think he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was the middle linebacker for about 5 of those years.
Mm-hmm.
Benny Blades was a terror at safety. He's in that discussion as top 30 safeties of all time, and that's saying a lot. And Robert Porcher, number 91, was a defensive dynamo. I mean, he got to the quarterback. And Robert Porcher is in consideration for Hall of Fame, but he's in the Detroit little Ring of Honor thing.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Porcher brought it every week for the Detroit Lions defense. So to sit there and say he didn't play with anybody, man, I'm thinking of the name now. Jerry Ball is a perennial Pro Bowler, and he was nose tackle. To sit there and say that Barry Sanders didn't play with anybody or all that is a false narrative that is garbage. So so he played with good players, didn't have any great teams, but they were good. And it was what's I think the most hilarious thing. It's kind of a drop the mic thing. And when people say Barry Sanders played with terrible teams, the year he retired, they went to the playoffs. So you know what I mean. So it's like, yeah, they were so terrible that they went to the playoffs the year you left them too. So that made it like 6 times they went to the playoffs in that decade.
Right.
I think that was 1999. So they made the playoffs 6 times in the decade. That's pretty terrible, huh? You think the Buffalo Bill fans would take that right now?
Oh, in a heartbeat.
6 times
I feel like any fans besides the Cowboys fans would be taking that.
Yeah. Well, as a Cowboy fans, we've been taking that for the last 20 years. We make the playoffs and nothing really happens. We won 3 playoff games, So
I remember as a kid watching a lot of Detroit games because my dad is from that area and he's a huge Barry Sanders fan. Barry Sanders, he went to high school like a couple hours from my house, so I remember going to his high school games and then watching him in college just like a little bit. And so we were big Barry Sanders fans. And I could never really remember them being horrible. I mean, like, yes, they had that 0-16 season, but like previously than that, like they were never horrible with Barry Sanders, like on the field. I mean, like, yes, I was young, but at the same time, like, they were always like 8.
Well, it's funny. You know what's funny? People don't remember history. You know it's a good trivia question to ask your father.
What's that?
In the 90s, how many times did Detroit make the playoffs? I bet, even as smart a man as he, I bet he says maybe twice or something. I bet. Come back and talk to me about that.
I'll ask you this weekend.
They made it 6 times.
6 times.
That's a lot. That's so terrible. That's a lot.
Hey,
if that's terrible, then sign me up. If I've been a perennial loser for terrible.
Yeah. I mean, as a Detroit fan, Matthew Stafford hasn't led you guys to 1 playoffs.
So
not one.
No. He Matthew Stafford's been in the playoffs. He's never won a division.
Okay, won a division. There you go.
Yeah, but he's been in the play. They haven't had a playoff victory though.
Right.
Barry Sanders won 1 playoff game, and you would think the Cowboys fans would appreciate this. I have Cowboys fans telling me that my narrative on Barry's terrible. Hey man, they beat us. I don't know if you remember that. the Barry Sanders lone playoff win was beating the Cowboys in the divisional, getting to the NFC Championship game and playing the Redskins, and they lost to the Redskins. But matter of fact, they beat our ass so bad it was 38-6 was the final.
Ouch! I don't remember that.
That was 1991, and that woke up the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And after that, they traded for Charles Haley, and the rest is history. And Michael Irvin and Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith said they never want to feel that again in the playoffs, like losing like that. And yeah.
All right,
so
guys.
Thank you, Detroit Lions, for waking up the Cowboys of the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, like, I remember the 90s as being basically dominated by the Cowboys, Green Bay Packers, and San Francisco 49ers. Like, those 3 teams were always in the NFC Championship games.
And you know what's funny? That's why you won't remember that most of the time Green Bay or San Francisco or the Cowboys had to beat Detroit to
Yeah.
get to the NFC Championship games. You don't remember that, do you? Because
Sure
it's
don't.
almost like, yeah, whatever. Yeah.
So, guys,
So just like how many teams have beaten the Bengals, and they like Bengals have lost with they're 0-7,
yeah,
right, in the playoffs. And so the Bengals, people had to beat the Bengals to advance in the playoffs, but you won't remember the Bengals of the 2000s, Andy Dalton, because
no,
they didn't win a playoff game.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guys, that's some knowledge for you guys from Marcus the Sports Freak. Follow him on the Twitter machine at Marcus the Sports Freak, or Marcus the Freak, isn't it? Marcus
Yeah.
the Freak. So, guys, that's going to be it for today's show. Join us Monday. We're going to break down the New York Jets. We already have 6 games figured out. So join us for the other 10
Yeah.
games,
Right.
and join us
Right.
tomorrow. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll see you next week. Have a good weekend.